Today we are going to study very interesting sonnet on his 23rd birthday written by John Milton. Here is the image of John Milton. He was born on 9th December 1608. He passed away on 8th November 1674. He was a Puritan. He had full faith in the Christian values and wrote the famous book Paradise Lost. I would like to say something about Paradise Lost. This book is about the evils of Satan and about the story of Adam and Eve. The poet justifies the ways of God to man in this great work, in this great epic. He wrote another great book, Comus, Lycidas, Algero, and there is a famous quotation from Paradise Lost that it is better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. The life in heaven is of a slavery, it is of serving the God, but in life in hell is a life of liberty, it is a life of freedom. That's why the poet says that it is better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. Poet also expresses his faith in the decisions of God and says they also serve who only stand and wait. It is our habit that all the time we impeach the God, we blame the God, that the God has not given this thing to me, that the God has taken away this thing to me. We do not wait for the decisions of the God. And that is why Milton expresses views and says that those persons who stand and wait for the decisions of the God, for the results of the God, they are also the true servants of God. And the next quotation is that who bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. Those persons who are happy in the situation in which they are placed by the God, they serve him best. In the eyes of Milton, these people are also serve the God, those persons who bear the situation in which they are placed. They do not complain, they do not raise finger over the decision of the God. Now here is a picture of the from the Paradise Lost. It describes the burning hell. And next we say the another picture in which Satan is addressing his followers. He is giving the spirit of freedom, and he says that it is better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. He does not accept the situation of slavery. He wants freedom. He wants liberty. Now I come to the poem. This poem was written near about 1631. When the poet was reaching at the age of 23, the poet realizes that he has reached to the stage of manhood, but he finds that outwardly it appears that he is reached to the stage of maturity, but he inwardly feels that he is not mature. See in what manner the poem begins. How soon hath time the subtle thief of youth. Here subtle means the cunning thief of youth. Here the poet addresses the time and says, the time is a cunning thief, the tricky thief, and the time has stolen the 23 years of his life with full speed. Stolen on his wing my 3 and 20th year. The poet is surprised because there is a sign of exclamation. And he says that the time has taken away the 23 years of his lifetime silently. And the poet is not aware about the changes which are taking place in his life. My hasting days fly with full career. The poet comes to know, the poet realizes that the period of his lifetime is passing with full days, with galloping speed. But the poet is unhappy for the one thing that, but my late spring on no bird blossoms so, that he fails to produce the flowers of poetry in the service of God. The poet realizes here the late spring, no bird and blossom is the flowers of poetry, the rhymes in the service of the God, the prayer in the service of the God. He said that he could not produce the good poems in the service of the God. The poet is unhappy. He realizes that the time is passing with full speed. and time has taken away the 23 years of his time. But the poet impeaches the time and says that it is the time which has taken away the 23 years of his lifetime silently, and the changes are taking place, and the poet is not aware about those changes, and that's why the poet says that time is a cunning thief of the youth. In the second quatrain, the poem begins like that. Perhaps my semblance means outer physical appearance, might deceive the truth that I to manhood arrive so near. Milton says that outer physical appearance shows that he has reached to the stage of manhood, that he has reached to the stage of maturity. Uh, deceive the reality. He says that okay, outwardly it appears that he is matured, that he has reached to this stage of manhood, but the poet realizes the poet is unhappy that inward ripeness doth much less appears. That inwardly, spiritually, the poet says that is not ripened. Outwardly, it appears that is matured, but inwardly, he is not matured. Spiritually, is not matured. It appears that it less appears. That some more timely happy spirits in you. There are so many happy persons who get the inward ripeness timely at the right time. And Milton says that these people are happy spirit, means happy persons who get the maturity in time, a spiritual maturity. Now here the poet is talking about the spiritual ripeness, the inward ripeness, that those persons are happy who get the spiritual ripeness within the time, and he praises those persons. But the poet is unhappy. The poet complains that he has not got the the ripeness, the spiritual ripeness. Now, with the finish of this octave part, the sextet part begins, and the mood of the poet changes. But when the mood of the poet changes, okay, yet it will less or more, soon or slow, it shall be still in strict measure ever. The poet says, okay, whether this progress is less or more, whether it's progress sooner or later, it does not matter. He wants to submit himself under the control of God, under the supervision of God. And he said it would be still under the strict measures of the God, the strict parameters of the God. He says, okay, whether this progress is high, low, more or less, he said that now it will progress under this strict supervision of the God. To the same Lord, however mean or high. The poet also dedicates himself that either this progress high or low, sooner or later, less or more, it will be according to the direction of the God, towards which time leads me. See the dedication of the poet, the submission of the poet, that towards the time leads me the will of heaven. The here will of the means will of heaven means the will of God. See, in the first eight lines, the poet is unhappy about the development or the maturity, physical maturity. But see, in this line in the line 12th, and he says that towards which time leads me and the will of heaven. The poet expresses full faith in the will of heaven, in the decisions of the God, and he says that he wants to submit himself under the guidance of God, under the supervision of God. All is if I have grace to use it so. See the dedication of the poet. Okay, if he gets the chance to pass his time under the supervision of God, under the guidance of God. He says, ever in my great taskmaster's eyes, your taskmaster is God. I means supervision. The poet says that he wants to pass his rest time under the supervision of God, under the guidance of the point, under the guidance of the God. See in what manner the poet realizes his maturity and says that he is reaching to the age of 23rd. Outwardly, it shows that the poet has acquired manhood, the poet has reached to the stage of manhood, but the poet realizes that it is not so. Outwardly it appears, but inwardly he is not matured. Spiritually, he is not mature, and he is unhappy that he could not produce the flowers of poetry in the service of God. The poet also expresses unhappiness that the time has taken away his youth, the 23 years of his lifetime silently. Changes are taking place, but he is not aware about the changes. With the end of the sextet and with the beginning of the uh, sextet, the poet says, okay, this progress is slow or low, what may be. The poet wants to pass his whole time under the supervision of God, under the guidance of God. There is a change of idea with the beginning of the sextet. The first 8 lines expresses the poet's unhappiness, but with the beginning of the sextet, the poem expresses the poet's submission to the will of God, to the desire of God, and the poet is ready to submit himself under the guidance of God, under the service of God. Now we can say that it is an autobiographical poem. Here the poet personifies the time, and the poet thinks that time is a thief. See in what manner the poet personifies the time. It is a beautiful metaphor of the time. Time is personified as a subtle thief, as a cunning thief. Here, will of Hermes, it clarifies that it is about the will of the God. And the taskmaster eyes of the God means supervision of the God. The poem expresses the faith of the poet in the decisions of the God, in the existence of the God. We can say that this poem is a message to the suffering mankind that we should believe in the decisions of the God, that we should express confidence in the decisions of the God. We should not express doubts about the uh, decisions of the God. We should pass our time under the guidance and supervision of the God, and thanks.